Hello and welcome to Science Talk. I am your host, Jim Massa. In this video, I want to share with you some ancient finds involving fish. The first story involves sharks. And common ancestors of sharks and humans lived 440 million years ago. Now, that's not too long after the Cambrian explosion, so there was a quick split there. In my previous video, I had mentioned about clades and cladograms and cladistic analyses. Well, if we were to map this out for sharks and humans, the common ancestor would be way, way, way down near the bottom of everything, because there are very few shared common traits today. Compare that to humans and chimpanzees, which are our closest living relative, and the split is not too far back. So in a recent discovery, they found some fossilized parts of a shark that lived during the Devonian, which is a period lasting from about 416 million to 358 million years ago, sometimes referred to as the age of fish. Now typically, sharks have a cartilage skeleton. Cartilage, I'm not saying never, but it very rarely fossilizes. Sometimes some of the aspects of the cartilage can be mineralized and it may fossilize, but it's rare. But typically what does fossilize are the teeth and the scales. Now, if you were to look at a modern shark and you were to run your hand over its skin, it feels very, very rough. It's almost like 60 grit sandpaper, if you will. They're actually sort of like little placoid scales, which gives it that rough texture. So, what the report they have here, they found these specimens, and they dated to about 385 million years ago, that sharks and the ancestors of humans split before the Devonian, during the Silurian period, which is 443 million to 416 million years ago. Now keep in mind the Cambrian explosion was approximately 550, 600 million years ago, thereabouts, and that's where we see a massive radiation in the sense of diverging, not as in nuclear particles, into the major phyla that we still see to this day. Okay? So during this period of the Silurian, we also see the groups such as fungus, arthropods, arachnids, centipedes, and so forth move onto land. Okay? So the shark that they are describing is Gladbachus edentatus, and it's named after Bergisch Gladbach, which is a German city where these specimens were found. Now, at first, if you look at the name, the species name edentatus, it almost, in Latin means without, and dentatus refers to dentition, teeth. So it almost seems to imply without teeth. Well, they know that that's not quite correct, but once you formally identify a species, the name kind of sticks. Unless it's, of course, Brontosaurus then being recalled Apatosaurus. So, it appeared that the jaws were toothless, but as I will discuss with you later, they did have teeth. Okay. Nowadays, we have a group of organisms called the agnathans, and these are basically jawless creatures. Okay. These are things like the lampreys, the hagfish. Okay. So edentatus means without teeth, agnathan means without jaws. Okay? So they are different. But as I said, it turns out that edentatus did indeed have teeth. So Michael Coates, who is a professor in the Department of Organismal Biology and Anatomy at the University of Chicago, he was the lead researcher on this. He took another look at this fossil because of its age. And also because it happened to be, there's a lot more information there. As he says, fossil sharks are usually preserved as a mess of tiny scales and teeth and not much else. Here they actually found an articulated skeleton. And it said, cartilage typically does not fossilize. I'm not saying never, but when it does, it's very rare. And they, not only did they find like 1 or 2 bones, they found an articulated skeleton, meaning that the bones were in place and we can see how they went together. This is an extremely exciting find. The specimen is about 80 centimeters in length, approximately a little over 2.5 feet. And it was, as he says, squashed flat. Well, it makes sense. You know, the weight of depositional of sediments and so on, compression, you can kind of squish the thing here. G. edentatus is one of the earliest known fossil sharks on record. And this particular animal represents the tip of a branch, sort of a side branch of the shark family tree. Now, they looked at they did a CT scan. Okay, CT, by the way, stands for computed tomography. And what they found with looking at G. edentatus is that other, maybe even older fossils of isolated scales do in fact come from early sharks. This discovery helped the researchers make the new estimate that at least 440 million years have passed since humans and sharks shared a common ancestor. So by re-examining the scale, they're able to further determine when the diversion between sharks and humans took place. Furthermore, based on this study here, shark evolution has many branches. Several lineages of the earliest sharks, and I'm quoting directly from Professor Quaddis, several lineages of the earliest sharks converged on what we now recognize as classic shark-like features, such as having a long throat with multiple gill slits. Scientists used to think that multiple gill slits were a quote-unquote primitive trait, but G. edentatus shows that they are not. The serial gill slits represent an early specialization, and we argue, this is what he's writing in his paper, this specialization is for filter feeding, something that we see in modern basking sharks, or even the largest fish, the whale shark. Despite its initial name, G. edentatus actually had several kinds of teeth, including small mono, bi, and tricuspid teeth lining its jaws. The study was published in the Journal of Royal Society under Biological Sciences. Now, mono, bi, and tricuspid teeth. Basically, cuspids are points on the teeth. If we look at mammals, mammals have what's called heterodonty. Hetero meaning different, donty, of course, again referring to teeth. So that means there are different teeth in the mouth. Incisors, canines, premolars, molars, right? Incisors for biting, canines for ripping, especially if you're a predator with long canines like a tiger. And then, of course, we have the molars for chewing. If you look at teeth in, say, a reptile, all the teeth are the same, called homodont. Homo means the same. So all the teeth are the same in shape and structure. Usually, for such creatures, the teeth are designed simply to catch and hold the prey until it is swallowed whole. Example, look at the toothed whales, the dolphin, a porpoise. They have homodont teeth, they catch the fish and they swallow the fish whole. So does having mono, bi, and tricuspid teeth, does that qualify as homodonty or heterodonty? Good question. It's probably an in-between. There's probably not enough differentiation in the different types of teeth to say, oh yeah, we have different teeth for different functions. So this is most likely just a slight variation on a homodonty, that you have the different number of cuspid, but still probably in this case, for sharks, you grab a hold of the prey, you might do some shearing and scissoring through your food item. But anyway, this is an interesting study in that it puts back further in time when the split between sharks and humans occurred, based on a more detailed analysis of not only the skeleton that they found, which is a rare find, but also re-examining the scales. The next fish story involves a never before seen ancient fish species. Okay. The species in consideration is a Candolarhynchus pedillae, which is basically the first fossil quote-unquote lizard fish from the Cretaceous period. It is also the first ever found in Colombia in tropical South America. The fish, Candolarhynchus pedillae, is approximately 90 million years old, has no modern relatives. The researcher who made this discovery and subsequent description is Oksana Vernagora, who is a PhD student in the Department of Biological Sciences and the lead author on the study. This discovery is important because it contributes to the growing information, important body of literature on the fossil record in the tropics. The tropics worldwide are typically hotspots of diversity. In fact, a general principle in ecology is that species diversity decreases as one goes from the equator to the poles. So you may, at the equator, you may have, say 1,000 species, but the species don't have a lot of the numbers to it. Whereas as you go up toward the poles, you may have fewer and fewer species, but you have lots of the organisms. Okay. But anyway, Oksana Vernagora, her work can be found in the Journal of Systematic Paleontology, and the title of the work is A New Cretaceous Dercidid Fish, Neoteleostei olopiformis, from the Turonian of Colombia. Now, for those of you who are wondering, what is a lizard fish? A lizard fish is characterized by an elongated cylindrical body. It has a lizard-like head and mouth with needle-like teeth, typically found. So I wanted to bring those two updates. In my next video, I'm going to talk at some length about fossilized microbes, which presents some interesting implications for our understanding of evolution and other evolutionary processes here. As always, I thank you for your support. Please go to patreon.com/Science Talk with Jim Massa. If you are already a patron, a subscriber, I thank you. Tell others about my work here. I put materials on Patreon that I do not put elsewhere as a bonus and a thank you for your support. They will be coming shortly. Thank you.